What do we know about George Washington? Well, we know that he was the first president of the United States of America. He was the commanding general during the Revolutionary War. He fought in the crossing the Delaware, a pivotal battle in that war that turned the tide. He chopped down a cherry tree and couldn't lie about it. Actually, that didn't happen, but something people seem to know about him. But how did he become the George Washington that led the army? How did he become that person? Well, this film looks at the young Washington, and that is the name of it, Young Washington. Today we're going to do not one review, but we're going to do three reviews. First, we're going to consider the movie in light of is it appropriate for the average audience? Will you like this? And then for those who like this sort of thing, the fans of historical fiction, will you like this film? And then last, we're going to look at the big idea. What is that big idea that holds it all together, that supports it? We'll consider that on Bounds of Cinema as we look at Young Washington, directed by John Irwin. The plot of Young Washington. This begins with young Washington as a young man. He's been kicked out of school. He's a little boy. And he loves school. He wants to grow up and become a soldier in the British Army. Yet he's being denied going to school and becoming a commissioned officer because he's an American. And he's born in this country. He's a colonist. And so he, with the tutelage of his half-brother, he learns on his own. And then as he grows up into his 20s, he decides he's going to break into society. He's going to get a commission. So the best way to do it, he finds that there's having a big party in which he's not invited. But he crashes the party. And while he's there, he manages to schmooze with one of the leaders of one of the high-ranking people, and he manages to convince him, because of his training as a surveyor, that he can go out into the Ohio Valley, Western Virginia, Ohio Valley, and survey the land, which is necessary. And this would be something that could help him advance because he's a very ambitious young man. So then he goes out, and while he's out there surveying, he finds a fort. It's a French fort. So he goes back, reports this to Governor Dinwiddie, who sends him out and says, "You've got to tell him, French, get out of here." And so he says, "Okay," and he goes out there, and they don't take it. They say, "Make me." And so he goes back, he ends up pulling together a militia, the Virginia militia, which are basically people he knows, people he can find, and they all pile in and they go out to the Ohio Valley, and they confront the French and end up starting a war in which they are defeated. And George Washington suffers his worst defeat. His face is rammed into the mud with this one. It's devastating. He loses men. A lot of people that he was even friends with, they're dead. And so it's very embarrassing, very traumatizing. And he surrenders. He has to surrender. This is the first time and only time that George Washington surrendered. So he goes back. Dinwiddie says, "Okay, you failed." And so he determines he's just going to be a tenant farmer. That's where he is. That's where his destiny is. Then he decides through a turn of events to go back. He wants to go back. He goes back and as an adjutant, not as a leader, but goes back to help as General Braddock is leading the British soldiers out there to take the French fort. When they go out there, George has some knowledge that he's able to impart to the leadership does not want to take it, but he is able to help turn the tide. And ultimately, even though the French and Indian War has started, he ends up taking that land back, and there's a great success for him. And at the end, he is able to we see him become the commander of the Continental Army of Virginia. for the general audience. This film begins with George Washington as a very young man, has been kicked out of school, and we watch him grow. We watch him learn, watch him turn into the George Washington that we're more familiar with. This is called a Bildungsroman, or a coming-of-age story. You have a young man, you see him go through a process and becoming a more wise, more capable man later. So this is a standard type of storytelling. The characters, really good acting by William Franklin Miller, and he's comes across very well as the title character, George Washington. He is sent into the Ohio Valley by General Dinwiddie, who is played by Ben Kingsley, who does a wonderful job. He gets his commission, the idea of the person who supposedly owns that area or has the possibility of owning the area, is played by, is an aristocrat who's played by Kelsey Grammer. And then when he goes in as an as an adjutant, and he's going back after his big failure, he is under the General Braddock, who's played by Andy Serkis. So we've got some really good actors here, really good performances. He learns a lesson. We see a very solid character arc over the course of the film. And he comes back, and you see him becoming the more mature George Washington. We see what could possibly explain some of the things that we know about George Washington that led him to become president, become the first president. Old world tactics are not going to work for the new world. That's one of the things that we learned through this. There's a lot of really good information, a lot of good information on these characters. And it's, I think I would recommend this film for the average audience. It's a fun story. It goes in a very strong direction in letting you know what happened. It is, of course, fiction. And so there's going to be a lot of dialogue that's made up. No one was there with a recorder to record exactly what was said or how it was said. So these are actors. This is filmmaking. But you do learn. It is historical. You do learn some of these events. You learn it. And so I would also recommend it for young people who are studying the Revolutionary War. You will get some insight. Plus, I think it's just a nice, rollicking, good film. For those of you who are into this sort of thing, and I'm talking about you, people who like historical fiction, this is a historical drama. That is, it's very similar to to novels that you might read that go under the title, under the banner of creative nonfiction. You're going to have a lot of made-up dialogue, a lot of made-up situations, but basically it's talking about aspects of George Washington that's not usually focused on. They usually focus on his later years as it pertains to the Revolution. This is one specifically dealing with this first battle that he was in, how he learned from it, and then what happened. It's very historical. There are events that are actual events: the founding of Fort Necessity, the start of the French and Indian War, often called the 7-Year War, the building of that fort, and ultimately the defeating of the French at that place. It is definitely covering these historical things, but giving new life to them. It has definite character arc. We see him grow. It's definitely, you're building tension with this character. We see him grow. We see him learn. And on top of that, we're also seeing, hearing things, references to things that are very historical. So I don't think if you're a real fan of historical fiction, or specifically of fiction about the revolutionary time, colonial times. You will find a lot of wonderful set pieces. The locations and the use of AI to kind of create some locations are generally pretty accurate. Certainly have a feel of being pretty accurate. The events are going to be historical. The situations around them are going to be informed by real events, but it is still fiction. They're still actors. There are things that you've got to consider. There's going to be some things that are made up. A lot of the dialogue is made up, obviously. We don't have a recording of these people. We do have notes and letters that people have written about the time, but we do not actually have a recording of their voices. There's a combination of some characters to improve pacing. Also, they change the order of a few things, but generally it is in the order, historical order. So I would recommend this film for those who like historical dramas, particularly those that like historical dramas dealing with the Revolutionary War. I think you will like this film. Now, the big idea underlying this whole film is a bunch of questions. One is centers on destiny. Are we our station? Are we where we were born? Are we doomed to always be there? Or can we fight against that? Does that become our destiny? What we make of ourselves as we interact with history, as we interact with important events, as we try to make something of ourselves. Can this change our destiny? And is that the destiny that we were always meant to be? They explore that. How does ambition work in all of this? Also, what happens when we think we're doing the right thing and it doesn't work? What do we do with that? Also, within this film, they deal with the idea of the old world and new world, an old reality and a new reality. This becomes an important idea as well. Often we make decisions based on the way reality was as we understood it, but we're not considering being in a new situation, a new world, a world in which new things are happening. And so in order to get through it, you may need to do something different. And that's what these soldiers, this is what George Washington was facing when he was looking at waging a war in the new world. As at one point, one character tells him, this is a new world. We can't use the old tactics of the old world. And that's what he has to do. And that's ultimately what helps him succeed. And is that something that we can think about? You know, are we assessing the reality around us? Is it the way we were trained? Or maybe that won't work as well anymore. We have to consider being in a new situation. Big ideas, big considerations. Okay, a recap. For the average audience, I'm recommending this film. I think it's got a rollicking good story, good characters, well acted, and you learn a lot. And for those that are into this sort of thing, the historical fiction fans, you will enjoy it as well. It covers a lot of history that is not dealt with. It really gives you a good feel of the way things were back then, and some really well done acting and script and visuals. The cinematography is really nice. And also historically, yes, the events are, you know, obviously going to be some combinations. There's going to be some a little skipping of a lot of events, but generally the events that happen are dealt with, and so it would be fun. So I'm recommending it for the historical fiction fan as well. Okay, thank you for staying with me this far. If you have, please hit the like button so that this goes out to other people who might be interested in reviews on young on Young Washington or reviews of this type, groups of reviews of this type. And please subscribe so that you'll be first to learn when I've posted another set of reviews for another film on Bounds of Cinema.